everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. My name is Maria Hall. I'm the director of the Los Angeles Incubator Consortium. I'm also very happy to announce that we're officially combining with Orange County Legal Consortium. So today we're going to be talking about solo practice. We're going to let you know how to think about whether solo practice is right for you, and if so, how you can just jump in and get started. So here's a little bit about us. The LA Incubator was founded in 2015. It's a supportive community of lawyers, legal services organizations, law schools, the LA County Bar Association, and the LA Law Library, and all coming together to support new solo lawyers while they build sustainable community-based law practices. And the other purpose is to help bridge the justice gap by providing legal education and services to people who would otherwise have no access. So the gist, after now in our 10th year, we've found that a good strategy to keep in mind as you start your first year of solo practice is keeping your overhead low, generating cash flow, and building competence and confidence so that you can combine your freedom, your autonomy, but with a supportive safety net. You need legal resources, mentoring, peer support, case reviews, hub space, pro bono opportunities, leadership opportunities. So that's what we aim to provide in the incubator. And of course, our participants, one thing they all have in common is they're always up for adventure. So they are trailblazers in a changing legal profession. We're all living outside our comfort zone when you're in solo practice, learning and improving from setbacks. So not being afraid to look at, what other people might see as a short-term failure. You're going to turn that around and find what you learned from it and then keep moving on. Another trait that people have in common is defining success for yourself, not listening to the messages of the media or to other lawyers, but defining success for yourself. Also building a safety net of trusted peers and mentors, and of course, being that trusted peer and mentor to others. And then creating opportunities for yourself and others, creating opportunities for leadership, for service, for making money, all of those things. And of course, making friends and having fun. And in these past 10 years, since 2015, we've launched 103 solo practices in the LA area with 30 language fluencies. So you can see we have participants who have come from all over the world and then past the California bar. We have a few participants from other states as well, but mostly in the Los Angeles area. 57 of 103 of our participants joined within 1 year of passing the bar exam. So when people say, can you go straight into law practice, straight into solo practice right after becoming a lawyer? Well, you can, but that said, you really need a supportive community around you. I would not recommend doing it alone. There are dozens of practice areas represented. We don't tell people what to practice. We just give you opportunities. And collectively, our participants have donated thousands of pro bono hours to the community, well over $2 million in value of service. And today's panelists, so I'm going to just introduce them briefly, and then you'll meet them at the end of this section, and they'll give you their valuable perspectives. So Roberta Ponce was sworn in as a lawyer in 2021, and she immediately jumped into solo practice with the support of the incubator. She used her law license and Spanish-speaking ability to their fullest, and she earned money while serving communities. Then she found her bliss fighting for tenants' rights. And then she jumped into becoming a staff attorney at BASTA, which is a nonprofit. She does all trial work. Michelle Quadros was in our 2018 cohort. Michelle also jumped into LAIC almost immediately after becoming barred. Michelle has practiced immigration law, as well as real estate and civil rights litigation. And I hear lately she's been doing more slumlord litigation, which is always needed in LA. And she also hosts the Incubator's hub space in downtown LA, our shared workspace. Yanni Kim joined at LAIC also in 2018. She's an alum of UCLA Law School and has maintained two separate careers, serving as an officer in the military and being a solo lawyer. Yanni is an incredible advocate for kids, and her main focus is special education law. Then we have Rodolfo Marquez, also known as Rudy. Rudy joined LAIC a few months after becoming barred as well. From the start, Rudy focused on creating systems for his firm, which he's used to grow his practice from being a solo in a tiny rented office space into owning his own building with a whole team of reliable staff members and associates. Rudy practices immigration law and lives in Santa Barbara County. Krista Lara joined LAIC in 2022, and she was a brand new lawyer. Krista lives in Ventura County, so it was important for her to be able to find remote work and opportunities to stay close to home because she also does have a relatively new baby who is quite a taskmaster. So it's important for her to have opportunities to generate some cash flow, which she does with contract work from other attorneys, while she builds her own estate planning practice. And then last but not least, we also have Prem Reddy. Prem Reddy is a global Purdue law alum. He lives in Texas and he's barred in California. Before law school, Prem earned his medical degree with a psychiatry externship and research. And he's found a niche in coaching other lawyers on how to speak to judges, juries, and expert witnesses about brain diseases and other injuries. So I really appreciate all of you being here with us today, and we will jump in and then we'll hear from our panelists. So I have a few slides on each of these topics. Number one, we'll go over, can I really do it? Is it for me? Well, the answer is yes, you can, if you want to. The second is building confidence and competence. The third section is on nuts and bolts, where you begin and keeping your overhead low. And then the fourth section is generating cash flow. So section one, be your own boss. Yes, you can. All right, well, our profession is changing, and that means more opportunities for solos who are more agile and able to deal with change than big firms. We have changes in tech, technology. We can do things at a push of a button that may have taken 3 staff people to do before, bookkeeping, case management, client communications. We have AI, fewer barriers to communication. We have the ability to have remote access to courts and depositions. We have the gig economy where people are more comfortable sharing workloads. You can hire somebody to do contract work for you. You can do contract work for them. And also those old hierarchical structures are really shifting with the newer generations of, people coming into the fold. And then of course, the biggest one, perhaps, the community needs, also known as the marketplace. There are needs that are not being met by big firms or legal aid. Legal aid is very, limited in who they can help. And there are so many different areas of law where they can't help anyone. So all of those people in the middle, we need to find ways to serve those communities. So then you think, well, but is it right for me? Well, only you can answer that. I mean, we understand because there might be things holding you back that are totally legit reasons that, you make a conscious choice like, no, I don't think I can do this right now, or maybe later, or no, I just never want to do that. But in the incubator, we do try to, if people do come into our year, the hope is that in that year, they can really figure out and be really confident about the decision they make. If they want to stay in solo practice, if they want to get a job, like you'll at least know. And I also will say that being in solo is not going to hurt you. If you're solo for a year, it's only going to help you find a job. So many of our people, they get job offers as a result of what they're doing as a solo. They meet other lawyers who then offer them jobs. They're volunteering at a clinic and then they get offered a job. So it doesn't hurt you necessarily in that year, as long as you can keep your cash flow going. So what might be holding you back though? It might be financial reasons. I mean, there are legitimate financial reasons. You rely on your paycheck, you rely on the health insurance that comes with your employment. Your family relies on it. And, or it might be that you just have your job. I have a good friend. He has his job at a firm. He does a fine job. But then when he leaves, he doesn't want to think about it. He likes to, he's a writer, an artist. He does comic books. So he would rather be doing his art than thinking about, okay, my business and my solo practice. So that works for him. Now, on the other hand, so those things I would say are, understandable and realistic, but there are some other things that might be holding you back that the incubator was designed to help with. And I think we have been doing a really good job at it, and we continue to get better at it. Number one is nervous about the ethical pitfalls, the legal ethics and just incompetence, afraid of making a mistake. Also, imposter syndrome, where people come in, the profession has been traditionally mostly white men. And in the past 20 years, it's been changing quickly. But still, we come into it as, having some imposter syndrome. We don't look like the traditional lawyers, all of us, or maybe you have an accent and you feel self-conscious about that, or different things like that, that lack of confidence. And then another one is also, being afraid that, oh, I get too lonely working by myself. So those three things, nervous about ethical pitfalls, imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, and working too much alone, being in a community, a supported community, can help with all of those things. Okay, so personality traits that I've seen are really useful, for solos that I've seen from all of the people who come through. Having a really strong vision of who you are, what you stand for, and what you want for your practice. People who are entrepreneurial, creative, flexible, people who have an idea of who they want to serve, the clients they want to serve, and cases you want to work on. Having some tolerance for risk, having some tolerance for, taking a leap of faith, being self-directed, not needing a boss, having a really strong internal drive, and of course, being willing to be 100% accountable to yourself. Those are all really good indicators that like solo practice is probably right for you. One goal for each individual is to show them that they can have that autonomy, they can have the freedom. We're going to give you support. We're going to all work to give service back to the community. And then as a result, we hope that you will be healthy, resilient, happy, and you'll take away relationships and wisdom from your year in the program. And hopefully you'll continue to keep volunteering with us, because we do like to call it a growing community. Okay, so of course, another big fear that people might have, wait, but how do I find clients? Well, the answer is people need you. They will find you. We work so much like in LA Law Library, and people are always like, please, can you take my case? Can you take my case? So the reality is most Californians, this was from the State Bar, a study, receive no help or inadequate help in 85% of their legal problems. So it's not necessarily a problem of, oh, there's not enough lawyers. And it's not even a problem of, oh, nobody can afford a lawyer, because there are people who can afford it, but they just don't know where to go. And there are also other more flexible payment plans that we'll talk about later. According to the State Bar, there is a big legal education gap, an information gap. So people don't even know that their problem is necessarily a legal one, a belief that they need to deal with it on their own. A lot of times there's shame involved, but we've got to get out there and destigmatize things and like, no, talk to us. We want people to know what their options are. A fear of the legal system. And that's especially true from people coming from certain countries where the legal system is very corrupt and scary. So it's somewhat demystifying the legal system. Worries about cost, Of course, there are flexible payment plans that we'll talk about later. And then just an uncertainty of where to look. People see a billboard and they don't know that that accident attorney doesn't know anything about, their child custody battle or some other legal issue. So this justice gap, though, the main takeaway is it really is an unlimited opportunity for everyone to learn, to work together, and really troubleshoot on how we can better serve these unmet needs. And that can also include even a language area. Los Angeles, for example, has so many different language groups here, and almost everything is in English. So if you speak another language, that's like an extra superpower. Another tip on things to think about before you start, picture who your ideal client is, why you want to serve that group. What are their income ranges? What are their demographics? What are their skills, their attributes, their languages, their culture? What do they do for leisure? Where do they worship? All of those things. Where do their kids go to school? Or maybe your client will meet an attorney later who that's what she does is her clients are children because she represents kids in special education cases. So the more you can define your ideal client and why you want to serve them, then that's like pretty much that's, page 1 of your website. That's also your business plan. If you want to write out a business plan, that's all your marketing. It's like, that's your ideal client. You visualize them, you go where they are, and they will also find you. Okay, and just as important, what are your values? What is your purpose and what is your mission? Finding your why. So this is huge because finding your why reinforces your commitment to what really matters to you. And it gives you extra fuel. It's like a hidden fuel tank that you get when you just think, oh, I can't go on again, but you have your purpose, your mission. It gives you permission to tap out when you need to, because you can't say yes to everything. It helps you set boundaries and figure out what to say yes to and what to say no to, because you are not unlimited and you do have to take care of yourself first. So save your energy and your resources for what really matters to you. And then, of course, finding others who support and share your why leads to truer and more lasting friendships. Panelist perspectives. So now we're going to turn to our panel and we'll talk about, in a nutshell, what is your why? Discovering your personal mission and vision. So now let's turn to Roberta Ponce.
Hi, my name's Roberta Ponce, and like Maria said, literally the day after I got sworn in, I called Maria on the phone. I said, I'm your demographic. I'm exactly who the incubator is designed for. And as she said, now I do work for a nonprofit. But that first year that I did solo practice gave me amazing confidence. I came to the law school party late. I really didn't know anything about the legal system. I hadn't done internships or externships, but I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And the incubator connected me with other people who had more experience, and they gave me the networking confidence to know where to look for questions or answers, what questions to ask. I never imagined I would be a trial attorney. As a matter of fact, I did everything that first year except trial law, because I just didn't think that was my path. And the incubator provides you an incredible amount of volunteer opportunities. And one of the opportunities I got was working at Lawyers in the Library with people coming in, and I got, either by accident or coincidence, not sure, um, several people who were having issues with unlawful detainers. And it helped develop my growing concept that housing is a fundamental right. And then I said, I really, I really love unlawful detainer work. I really love keeping people in their housing. And I ended up pursuing a path at a nonprofit because I needed full disclosure, needed like the consistency of a steady paycheck to qualify for a home loan. But the important thing is that the incubator gave me the confidence to know I'd be okay either way in solo practice or working for someone else. The steady paycheck was only to satisfy the bank mortgage companies. And I did get a home. I'm very happy. Also, uh an important thing is that I made more money when I was in solo practice that 1 year than I do at my nonprofit. Um, but there's a balance, and life is a series of choices, and you're always making decisions. Um, Full disclosure, when I was doing solo practice, there might have been a lot of money at one time in the month, and then maybe nothing little later in the month or vice versa. So you need to learn really quickly how to budget. I did. Um, my personality was built that way. I love everything about being a lawyer. I love the nonprofit that I work at. Public service is a great lane. If you decide that you want to, public interest law, I'm sorry. If you decide that you want to go into public interest law, but you want to do this 1 year behind you first, that'll give you the confidence to say to your boss all the time, yeah, think about whether you want to increase my caseload because you know what? I came from solo practice and that door is always open. And that 1 year with the incubator gave me that confidence. Additionally, I would say that watching the previous slides where Maria talked about your business plan, it's very interesting because when I filled out my paperwork, I said I wanted to do something with landlord tenant. So I think another thing the incubator does is it helps you have confidence in your own intuition. Because a lot of times we live in a society where a lot of times we're told to divorce ourselves from our intuition, what we think is right. And you know what? Being in the incubator realigns your your confidence in listening to yourself. I made incredible friends. Um, the thing I loved about the incubator the most was that I had Maria's support. I could um, run things by her, practice pitches that I was going to make. I had other friends like Zach, who also does, Zach Fisher, who does landlord tenant. I could run negotiations by him. I mean, you'll make incredible friends and they'll be your lifelong friends because you share a love of law, a love of service, and just a really independent spirit. So I loved everything about being in the incubator, and I love being a lawyer, and I think it's an amazing path.
Well, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. Awesome. Well, let's turn it to Prem Ready.
Well, hello, everybody. Like many of you, I'm also a Purdue alum. And right after I took the bar and I got my results, I was thinking, well, I wanted to start my own practice because I have always been somebody who started his own company. Like I helped my dad start a rehab company and run it for 15 years. So it was hard for me to work for somebody else. And I was thinking, well, I don't have any experience and I'm living in Texas. What do I do? And that's when the dean emailed me about these incubator programs. And I was so happy about that because when I got in, it just gave me a lot of room to grow. And I started off doing transactional work for helping other physicians in order to help them to uh, start up their own companies. And I was good at it, but I was not getting as much reception to the changes I wanted to make. they were just not accepting all the changes I wanted to give them, and I was just not happy. And I did change around what I was doing for a while, and just having the incubator there gave me the help because I eventually ended up going into trial law. And that's something which I would never have put myself into. It's like a whole new ballgame. Going from medicine to this, it's like every single day, it's like I am scared to death at every single decision going before the judge, every motion, like because I'm so used to being very detail oriented. If I miss one little thing, it bothers me quite a bit, and so I would not have been able to do that without the incubators. And because if I had a question, I could just ask somebody right before a mediation or arbitration or trial, hey, I've got this situation. Somebody would answer that back to me. And that just gave me the confidence. And more often than not, what I found is my gut is right, but having somebody there to point me in the right direction, just a little bit of that, it just gives me that confidence. And when I go in, I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. So that helped a lot. And why I chose this is because before I got into law, I was studying medicine, and I was in New York at the time. And in my family, we had a head-on collision, and I lost my aunt, and I had to take care of my uncle who had a brain injury for 7 years. So not only do I know the medicine, but I've taken care of somebody for 7 years, hand and foot. And now I come into law, so I see the whole angle, all sides of it. And so it's kind of like a natural passion for me to draw from, kind of like I would say, like a chip on my shoulder kind of thing. Like it just the itch to help out. So and I am good at it. So I started using whatever I know naturally to and from my experiences, and I just write things down, everything that comes to my mind. I have a YouTube channel out there. It's not something that came to me naturally. I just started writing things down as they came to me, and eventually that volume of information just kept on growing. As I kept seeing things, I kept making things down, and I used that to train other attorneys or use that even in my depositions or at trial myself to make me stronger because that's one leg that I can stand on, even if I'm weak in something else. So that made me unique. And if you can find something that you're passionate about, you'll find a way to make yourself unique and different from somebody else. Well, somebody else is doing the same thing. Somebody else can be an MD, JD, but you know what? I'm doing it different because it's coming out of my passion. And that's a little bit about myself.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing all that. And last but not least, Crystal Lara.
Um, Hi, everybody. So this group is amazing that you've put together, Maria, and I'm just sitting here listening to everybody, and I'm getting like so motivated and inspired. Um, and I think, one thing that I'm hearing that's consistent between all of us that I think is true of pretty much everybody in LAIC is everyone just wants to do what they love. Um, and but sometimes doing what we love in the law is, or merging that love with our life is really difficult because of, maybe corporate law, or because, we just feel like we can't mesh those two together. And I think what LAIC does, and what it did for me, is to allow you that space, and it's difficult, doing what you love as a lawyer is difficult for so many reasons. Like the areas of law is so vast. It's so intimidating. There's this whole, I don't know. I came into, I went to law school, and the first in my family to go to law school, the first in my family to start a business, so there's a lot of what I'm doing that is the first in my family, and that's scary. But LAIC gives you the space and the support that you need to do that. And it's difficult. um, it's stressful, but I think that what we stress about as solo attorneys, or being in nonprofit space like Roberta, even though we stress about, certain things, I think what we don't have to stress about is someone looking over your shoulder all the time, and telling you, look, like, this is the case that you have to take. That was a big reason that I wanted to go solo. I was working in entertainment, and as a woman in entertainment, it just didn't feel like it was made for someone like me. And that I would have had to pay my dues for a really, really long time. And, even though I knew I didn't have the experience, I knew I could do something, even right out of law school. I was ready, I was hungry. And so starting my own solo practice was like, okay, I can step into the shoes that I want right away, but I just needed some assistance for, like Prem said, okay, my intuition is telling me this, but I want kind of the extra reassurance that what I'm doing is correct or right, because we're um, the liability for being a solo practitioner or a lawyer, it's a responsibility. So, and we all understand that. So I think having that support is super helpful. And so my biggest whys were that autonomy to take on the cases that I wanted, and having the balance for myself, my family dynamic, but having that space to grow as much or as little as I wanted to at that moment.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for your candid answers. So now we're going to jump into building confidence and competence, section 2. So it is scary. Yeah, it does feel like sometimes like, wow, anything I do, I might get sued or I might get in trouble with the bar. And oh, yeah, it's a lot. But luckily, at least the California Rule of Professional Conduct Rule 1.1, it doesn't require us to be perfect. And judges also don't require us to be perfect. We are allowed to make mistakes. It's just you can't intentionally, recklessly, with gross negligence, or repeatedly fail to perform legal services with competence. So competence means you have learning and skill. This is straight out of the rules of professional conduct. Mental, emotional, and physical ability, reasonably necessary. And basically, when you take a matter on, you either have to already know how to do it, or by the time you do the work, you have to figure out how to do it competently, or work with a lawyer who has that expertise, or refer it to somebody else with that expertise, or just get up to speed and do it. So again, it's a huge responsibility, and it's a lot more stressful than regular jobs, but that's what we signed up for. It also has a lot of benefits. So also, once you're thinking about that, you think about, hey, what do I enjoy? And sometimes we don't know what we enjoy because we've never tried it. How would you know if you enjoy arguing in court if you've never done it? You see it on TV, but you don't know until you try it. Do you like researching and drafting briefs? Do you like meeting clients for the first time? Do you like rainmaking? Do you like networking? Do you like billing? Do you like making money? Do you like giving public speaking? Do you like teaching? All of those things. Do you like talking to people in crisis? If you like those things, great. If you don't like those things, then don't, pick a practice area where you don't have to do things you don't like. But don't decide you don't like something before you try it. I would say that. So what activities do you like the least? Well, even if you have to do things like your bookkeeping or, things that a business has to have, there's freelance help, there's temporary staffing, you can co-counsel with other lawyers, you can find ways to delegate the things that you don't necessarily want to do. And of course, with AI now and with other tech and software is incredible. You can also automate a lot of your regular business stuff that doesn't take a lawyer. Also, invest in your strengths. And again, we don't all know what our strengths are because we were born with them usually. So we take them for granted. People don't know that they have a good memory until other people keep saying, wow, you have a good memory. So invest in your strengths. This book, Gallup Strengths Finder, I really liked it. It told me things about myself that I didn't necessarily know. Like strategy was the number one strength of mine according to them. I never thought that. So then I was like, wow, I'm going to do more strategizing. So it's things like that that you don't see, but I highly recommend it. And it may take time to find what you love. Door law is kind of what I said at the beginning. If you're just like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to just hang up my shingle. You basically talk to anyone who comes in the door, well, that is going to be a recipe for crazy making, because you're going to be like, okay, let me figure that out. Let me figure this out. No, you eventually, you want to narrow your focus. But, you know, there are ways of doing it so you don't have your shingle up taking anyone that comes in. You can do things in pro bono. You can do things volunteer at a clinic. You can co-counsel with someone else. You can learn the areas of law, find what you love without necessarily taking on a whole bunch of clients who then you're on the hook for. So the niche marketing, like Rudy was saying too, he even went geographic region. He knew the area where he wanted to work. You know, he knew the demographics, the language needs, you know, so you just start narrowing as you go along. And don't be worried about if you think, oh my gosh, like Roberta mentioned, like I would have never known that I love being in court, you know. So maybe you thought one thing, that you were going to do something, and then you know, you tell everyone you're going to do that, but then you end up not liking it. So don't stick with it. You can change, you can pivot. So kind of, you know, the beauty of being a solo is it's pretty, especially at the beginning, is it's very agile. You can pivot, you can, you know, kind of change it up. And then confidence. So one of the myths about confidence is that you can kind of sit there and think about it and read about it, and then you'll get confident. No, confidence and competence both come from doing, not from reading books, not from thinking about it, not from, you know, hearing about, you know, how other people did it. It's about getting out there and doing it. And yeah, it can be uncomfortable, but then it's really gratifying. And of course, like build a team, have mentor support, co-counsel. You can do contract work. You can make a little money that way for other attorneys. Of course, looking at practice guides, but figuring out, having a problem in front of you to actually figure out, you know, having a real problem where you have to go in and look at the research and deal with the client. That's how you learn. So anyway, I could talk a lot on that too. But oh, and professional liability insurance, that's golden. That is like a big safety net that it's totally worth the cost. For new lawyers, I think up to 3 years. I think I have a slide on this later, but it's only about 50, 60 bucks a month. And it's so worth the peace of mind. Okay, also, as far as peer support, this I could say a lot about too, but I'm going to limit myself. But surround yourself with people who want to see you succeed. There are, you know, there's a term called frenemy. There are a lot of frenemies in the world who they act like, oh, how great that you did this. But all the while they're discounting what you're doing. They're doing little digs. They're not really happy to see you succeed. And they don't really want what's best for you. They're giving you advice based on what they think. And even if they have way more experience, that might not be the right advice for you. So find people who support you and want you to succeed. You can find them in, I was surprised that the legal profession, yeah, there are a lot of jerks and probably psychopaths, but there are also a lot of really nice people who are like really want to mentor and like pass down what they know. So you can find them in bar associations, affinity groups, networking events, listservs, social media, and my big one is volunteering. When you volunteer, you meet other people who are also, you know, like-minded. And then, you know, later on, when you get all of that under your belt, serving on boards and committees of charitable organizations, you know, taking on those leadership roles. Another one, boundaries and avoiding red flag clients. Oh man, I still to this day am learning more and more red flags. But this also you learn by volunteering at clinics and by meeting people, and you realize like, okay, there's some red flags, people who keep pushing your boundaries, people who want to flatter you into, you know, oh, no other lawyers understood, but you're the one who can win justice for me. You know, that kind of like, you know, that kind of like flattering language. That's another red flag. People who have had multiple lawyers in the past, huge red flag. So don't be afraid to say no. You've got to conserve your energy, your resources, and your hours of help for people who are not going to be stepping all over your boundaries and then sue you later. So yeah, that's a whole other, that could be a whole webinar in itself. Panelists' perspectives. Okay, so the question is, what was the biggest challenge in your first year as a solo related to building confidence and competence? So in this one, whoever wants to talk, please just unmute. Krista.
Yeah,
Krista,
I was
that's Michelle.
just writing something in the chat when you said if panelists had anything to say. So, I was terrified, being a new attorney and starting in a totally different area of law than I had experience in. I was terrified that clients would ask me, how many cases have you done, or how many have you won, or how many years have you been doing this? And so, before I jumped into doing work in my first year as a solo attorney, I was like trying to learn estate planning, because that's what I wanted to do when I started my law firm. I was like, okay, I have to be an expert on estate planning, like, before I can talk to anybody. And I wasted so much time doing that. What Maria said is so true, that you really gain that confidence helping the clients, doing it, trying it. What Yoni said is exactly right. Also, finding your process for how to learn and find answers. And that has actually helped me more than trying to learn these areas of the law and being a master at it, before I can take on any clients. And I have not had any client ask me, yet, how many cases I've done. I mean, I think they want to talk to somebody who's going to listen to them. And, if I don't know the answer when I'm doing the intake, I say, that's great. That's not something that I've had experience with yet, but, here's what my gut is. This is what my gut says. I'd love to do a little bit more research before we move forward. And, I have not had, anybody say that they, didn't like that or didn't want to move forward with me because of that.
Yeah, I know Michelle was going to say something, because it's like we have this idea of what we think other people want to see in a lawyer, and they just want help. Michelle.
All right. So, in my view, the first step to becoming confident is having a support system. Maria in the beginning mentioned that, starting a solo practice might feel like going to a foreign country. If you join LAIC, you're going to go to this foreign country, but with a whole bunch of tourist guides and people that speak the language to help you in that. So having a support system, I think it's crucial. And being part of this program is what provided me and set me up for the success that I have today, and I have had since I started, to have someone that I can call up and ask questions, bounce off ideas of each other, having that support system that over time feels like a second family that you can really rely on. Like, you got to put the work yourself, and you got to foster those relationships and be part and be active in this program. But having a support system is going to help you tremendously. Having, like, LAIC has now over 100 attorneys, I believe, right, Maria?
Yeah.
So imagine if you're a part of this group. If you don't know something, nobody knows everything, but we have a wealth of resources here, that from things that we learned as we went through the process, that we'll be happy to share with you. So the challenge that I had as I started, I think it's a challenge that most solo practitioners have, is to find that client base. One thing that I relied on, and that I also, as I started, like, I know that a lot of you listening today are still in law school, start fostering friendships with attorneys now, because even people that practice the areas that you want to practice, they can still refer you clients. Sometimes people stop taking clients for a certain period of time because they have a lot to focus on. You want to be that person that they would send clients to, that they would rely on. That's what really helped me build a sustainable practice in the beginning. Today, I have been around for a few years now, but in the beginning, that really, really helped me to have that initial base to continue to grow from that support that I got. So yeah, so I hope that's helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, thank you. And I guess we should keep going because time is flying, but I do want to get to the money making part too. And of course, the nuts and bolts, where you begin and how to keep overhead low. Um, I always suggest start small, especially if you're not positive that solo is for you, no need to incorporate right away. You can if you want, if you know you want to, but you can just start with a DBA. Actually, if you just start like this one, Maria E. Hall, attorney at law, you don't even need a DBA. You get your bank account in that name, Maria Hall, business account, individual account, or even law office of Maria E. Hall. You don't need like a big, corporation. You just keep it simple. Malpractice insurance likes it because apparently if you're just yourself, then you don't get sued as much as if you're a corporation, and less likely to run afoul of state bar rules on naming, easy to set up or unwind. And then in the first week, we do have a boot camp every year in February. And we always, these are some of the startup basics. We do try to figure out what do you want your firm name to be, your mailing address, business cards, website, malpractice insurance, bank accounts, case management and filing systems. We kind of try to go over all those basics. Also other expenses. And then you can get either like through our program and other, Bay Area Legal Incubator as well, you can get a lot of this for free. Or actually, it's not for free, it's for in exchange for your fee to be in the program, which is our program is $400 a month. I'm not sure what Bay Area's is. It's somewhere around the same. But then you get all of this free. And actually, I think your schools, some schools sponsor. So anyway, you get like case management. Actually both Bay Area and LA both have hubs where you can use that as your mailing address. Coaching, memberships, practice guides, MCLEs, headshots. So all of those types of things. The LA Law Library as well. I think I have a slide on them later, but any law library is also going to have a lot of resources. Usually you can go there and use their Lexis, Nexus, their Westlaw, etc., their practice guides. Also starting up, just have a quick intro. It might feel funny at first to call yourself a lawyer if you're new. I was very comfortable saying I was a law student, but I was felt weird saying I was a lawyer. Like, hi, I'm a lawyer, like just sounded funny. Social media, yeah, it's everywhere. So people are doing it, but do pay attention to some of the, solicitation rules and then inadvertently creating an attorney-client relationship with somebody you don't want as a client. And of course, the public persona versus privacy, what's right for you. Among our panelists, we can't get too much into it with the time we have today, but for example, Ms. Kim tends to like her privacy. She doesn't do social media. I've noticed like Rudy he has a website and, he has ways to reach his client, as well as Prem, but you can be as public or as private as you want. You don't have to do things. You're going to get a lot of salespeople calling you when you put up your shingle, like relentlessly trying to sell you ads, trying to sell you, marketing, trying to sell you quote unquote leads. You don't need it. I'm just telling you. So yeah, this is the malpractice insurance, totally worth the money. Case management options. You do need a case management program. I mean, like Clio is like kind of Clio and Practice Panther are bigger than my case, I think, but they just have so much automation. So you can do your billing, you can do marketing if you want. It's like, and it can be all integrated. So all of these things now can be integrated, your billing, your calendaring, your communications with clients, your timekeeping, so it's just so much easier now. This used to be all different people at a big firm, doing all these different types of things. Now it's like at the push of a button. So in that sense, it is, in some ways, it's easier to be solo. It's still a lot to think about though. 2025, 2026 membership for LAIC. I can kind of skip over this because I also have it at the beginning, and then I'll send slides to everyone with more information later. Panelist perspectives. Okay, good. Back to you all. Keeping overhead low. Just give us some quick tips for keeping overhead low. And is there something, some expense that you just cannot live without? Okay, who wants to start?
I will. You know what? Get over yourself. When I first started, I literally had a TV tray and I built some shelves with like some blocks and plywood. And one thing that was great about the incubator, they taught me how to invoice. I didn't know. I looked at my invoice. I was like, wow, this looks pretty good. And those kinds of skills the incubator will give you. Another thing is uh, the incubator will provide you exposure to areas of law that you may never have thought about. Like for me, I learned about DMV. I didn't even know there were DMV um, appeals, or that you could do a limited scope representation helping someone prepare for small claims or do a small claims appeal. So you could do those things to keep steady money coming in while you decide what other cases you want to do. I did a lot of grinding. I mean, I translated letters, translated documents. So you can do all of that to keep a steady stream of money coming in. And I would say that that's a good strategy.
Did you have anything that you just couldn't live without? Like for me, it would be like Adobe Acrobat.
I was scared of Adobe Acrobat.
That's right. I had to do those for you.
Now I love Adobe Acrobat.
Okay.
I do the little workshops in the morning. Again, had I not been part of the incubator, I would never have been exposed to their free workshops. And, there's a lot that the incubator made me aware of. I guess in terms of
Zell.
yeah,
No.
Zell. That was a tag team. Uni and Maria turned me on to Zell. And yes, that I can't live without Zell. I would say that.
That's free though. Yeah. What about you, Michelle?
So when I started something that I could, then looking back, that I know I would not have survived without, is LAIC.
Aw.
Really, look, you guys just saw the slides that Maria showed you. Look, all the things that you have, all the value that you have being part of this program. As a new attorney, we need the resources. We need to be able to go to CB or LexisNexis and find samples, find things that, to give us some guidance and to make sure that we're doing things properly. LexisNexis membership, like now I pay, I have like everything basically. I pay over $500, okay, just for LexisNexis. So that in itself, it's a huge value, that you need to keep your overhead costs low. And with LAIC, without LAIC, I would not have been able to do it. After several years of law school, I was a full-time law student, not being able to work or working for free or, doing internships to learn and to have a feel of different practice areas. So I really had no money to really pursue my dream and my goals. And some people that are changing careers or that are attorneys working for somebody now and are thinking about taking that leap of faith on themselves. The overhead is going to be like important for you to keep an eye on. And sometimes we'll work for somebody who also don't know how much things cost. So the value that you get with this program is unbelievable. And if you have to pay for that yourself when you are starting, it's going to be a nightmare. You quickly are going to become very stressed and thinking that you have to go back working for somebody. So that's really crucial. And now, as as my practice evolved, things that I cannot live without is a system. I use Practice Panther to control my clients, my invoicing, my everything that's going on, my calendars. And also you need to have an answering service. Do not be the one picking up the phone, because first, you're not going to ever be able to charge for a consultation, because once they have you on the phone, how are you going to tell people, I cannot talk to you unless you pay me for a consultation? So you need to have that buffer because, consultations add up. They can pay you for LAIC, for example, if you're not sponsored, can pay for, some of the additional services that you decide to have. So answering service, I think it's crucial. Like have somebody picking up the phone for you if you cannot afford a secretary to start with.
Your law license is a license to print money. Use it wisely. And I never knew this. I started as a public interest lawyer, so I didn't realize like, wow, you can make money and actually keep serving the community too. But what you need to do though is look at your budget, make it really realistic, look at your personal expenses and your business expenses and really, be hard on yourself. Look at it. Just look at it. Don't be embarrassed if you have like 20 subscriptions to different, TV apps, but do look at, do you want to cut those out or do you want to try to earn enough to support that? So, and then you can look at it too. How much money do I need to make per month? What does that calculate out to per cases, per hours? How many hours do I need to bill? How much per hour can I bill? Do I need to, bill $250 an hour for 10 hours, 2,500, or do I bill $300 an hour and get that extra $500 at the end of the day? So it's a lot of variables. How many clients do you need to bring in? All of that math, all of that it's fun because you can see how you can turn the spigot up or down. Like if you want to take a slower month, how do you keep your budget flowing? Even if you're building a contingency practice, big red flag. I did this the first time I tried solo, only 2 years out of law school, and I kind of failed miserably because I did everything for free. I let everyone talk me into helping them for free, and I did everything on contingency. But what I didn't do is have any cash flow. So this is my biggest cautionary tale to you all that I had to learn later after working for a firm for a while. Then I learned like, oh, that's how you bill. So now I always encourage people get some hourly work if you can. You can even do limited scope, like Roberto was mentioning, just come in to do like a very specific short-term project for a client. You can do contract work for other attorneys, tons of need for that. Unbundled services, again, like a la carte, just doing little portions of a case for people. You can also do flat fees, although California Bar doesn't love those. And then also consultations, you can charge for consultations. You don't have to sign your life away and be in a case forever, and then contract work from other attorneys is really good way. It's always needed. So consider unbundled services because that's also more affordable for people to hire you. And this is one of the number one, I give a lot of presentations for the LA Law Library, and one of the number one things people ask is, how do I find a limited scope attorney? I just need help with answering this discovery. I just need help with somebody to look at my complaint or my answer. And it's really hard to find a limited scope attorney. So consider all of those options because I think a lot of people go to notarios and paralegals to do it, but technically that's illegal. And usually they give them really bad advice. So there is a need. It's a market niche that's nobody seems to be meeting. We try to do it in the incubator as much as possible, but I know there's a big untapped market out there. Sample areas of law where clients typically pay fees upfront and or billed hourly. So criminal defense work, family law, evictions, wills and trusts, immigration, litigation defense, bankruptcy, transactional work, lots of areas where you get the money upfront. There might be a lot of competition for those too. So, you got to market yourself well. Contingency cases, also another cautionary word about them. They are expensive. So I had a trial last year where our costs, including expert expenses, depositions, everything, ended up being $200,000. Thank God we won. So we got it all back. And then, yeah. But I mean, that is a risk. That's like a very scary risk. So you have to think about, can I afford it? Who do I need to partner up with? I partner with other people, including members of this panel, on cases, and then we can kind of spread the workload around and kind of delegate and then, look at the budget as well. So, but there are lots of great practice areas here, plaintiff side employment, civil rights, tenants suing landlords, personal injury. Also, civil rights cases can also be like in the education, Yanni has done those, so yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. How much to charge? No easy answer. I wish I could tell you all, and I would like to know more about the participants, the people who are attending, sorry, because if you are in different areas of the country, it's so different. Like if you're in LA, San Francisco, New York, Washington, D.C., it's going to be on the higher end. It could be in other areas, it could be much lower. No easy answer. And nobody likes to talk about their fees, but if you can get people, that's why it's nice to have like a supportive community too, because everyone's practicing in different areas and you can kind of brainstorm like what is the going rate. And whether or not like to charge consultation fee, referral fees, things like that. So finally, we are getting to the end of these, and then we'll get more panelist perspectives. You really want to design a situation that will work for you in the long term. Are you the kind of person who wants to work full-time plus? Like you're always on the clock and you love it and you don't have other things, you just love your work? Or do you want to be more of like 9 to 5, 40 to 50 hours a week? That's what you want. Or do you want to be part-time? Maybe you have other things that you do, or you have like a partner who has like does, the bulk of the money coming in, and you just want to kind of do it to keep your hand in, things like that. A freelancer, even a temporary safety net between jobs. Let's say you can't find a job and you're kind of looking for a job. You can be, law office of Maria Hall. I'm always law office of Maria Hall. I'm always Maria Hall, attorney at law, as long as I have my license. It doesn't matter if I have a job or not. Like you are your own job. So you don't have to have a blank on your resume. That's what I'm trying to say. So finally, tips to use the law as a tool that works for you rather than it using you. Appreciate and seek out people who support you unconditionally and actually are looking at your best interests, and be that person for others. Volunteer for legal clinics, volunteer to do things, meet other people who are volunteers. And it's fine to say, hey, I don't know the answer to that. I need to look it up. Like, don't feel like you have to always know everything, because you never will. No is a complete sentence. That one I'm still trying to learn, but you don't have to justify, learn to trust your gut and act on the red flags. Have faith in the challenges you've overcome. They will get you through, and seek out help when you need it, even if it's always depression and anxiety are almost universal in our profession. So yeah, huge rates of stress and anxiety in our profession. It's true. And it's a trade-off that we all are making because we want to do this job and we want to be able to serve. Okay, so final panelist perspectives on generating cash flow. What do you say to new solos who are afraid they won't be able to make any money? Let's see. How about Rudy? Oh, Rudy and Michelle. Rudy, then Michelle.
Um, you'll be able to make money. It's it is scary at first. You just don't know. You just don't know, how much you charge and this and that. But you just figure out what you want to. For me, I work backwards. Like, okay, how much I want to make my first year. My first year, for simplicity, let's say I wanted to make 100,000. Then I just like, okay, how much do I need every month, right? So that's 8,000, about 8,000 something every month. So how many cases? What's my average case value? For immigration at that time it was about 35 to 500. So I need 2 to 3 cases kind of to meet, you know, um, let's say 3 cases to surpass my goal, and that's what I did. Um, but then you have to keep generating. I mean, this is a business part, right? So you have to, okay, start implementing systems so that you can funnel in more clients, more get word of mouth, build goodwill, so that other people get, their family, their wherever friends to start coming to you, and then you generate more more buzz, you get the Google reviews, you start doing, and then you're generating the cash flow. There's different strategies that a lot of attorneys use. I use word of mouth because that has worked the best for my client base for the immigration side. The Google reviews help because that's how they find me, and so that we do have like a Google review presence, and we actually get a lot of clients from that because they see our reviews, um, and then they just come. So that's kind of how I go about that. But we do track. I have a track like in Clio. You could project. I have projections of exactly how much money's coming in, and exactly how much we're not how much we're spending, but exactly how much is coming in. We use QuickBooks to kind of how much is going out. Um, but that's my method. Another one that Michelle pointed out was you shouldn't be answering your phone calls because that reduces your hourly rate. So, you can't charge your hourly rate on a phone call, right? So then it'd be uh, when I added staff, our cash flow skyrocketed. So that's another like I would add staff sooner than you think. Obviously, it has to be the right staff because that's also another risk.
Wow, those are excellent. And I do remember when Rudy was in the program and he made a goal and then he like way surpassed it. So then he made a higher goal and then he way surpassed it. So I always remember that because as the director, I was just like, whoa, how did he do that?
Yeah, it's you had no idea until you're in it, and then you start generating projections, and you start kind of tracking your historical
Mhm.
um, case value, and then it starts going up because you get more experience. You're able to process cases faster because now you have the knowledge that you didn't have at the beginning. So it does compound.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Yeah. Anybody else? I know we are kind of going a little bit over, but if anyone else wants to throw in anything about generating cash flow, I think Roberta mentioned in the past section about how she just, I mean, Roberta is scrappy on that. Like she went to the DMV and she got clients and she did mediation because somebody on a listserv said they needed a mediator. So she just jumped in. Like, yeah, it's like there are so many opportunities out there.
A law license creates opportunities. Maria said that it's a license to print money, and I took it 1,000% seriously. It's true. You won't go hungry at all.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to add, it's also getting it. Like Roberta, you were like hustling, you were getting it,
Yes.
right? I also did like uh free not webinars, but like in person
Oh,
reach out to community organizations because I'm doing immigration. So I reached out to community organization churches. So now that then they opened their client base to allow more people. And yeah, at first you're giving a lot of free legal know your rights or whatever it may be, but that generated enough to keep me going, and then from there then the word of mouth part kind of kicked in, and then that's just what's been sustaining us, um, and that it's a relevant area that's on the news, and it's going to be on the news, and it's been on the news.
oh yeah. And one thing I forgot, I should make a slide on this, is the tax situation of a solo when you're actually your own business is so much different. Like if you're getting a paycheck right now and say you're making 100 grand a year, your paycheck is going to be, I don't know how much that comes out to per month, but a lot of it is taken out in taxes. So when you're a solo, your whole life becomes a business expense. So you're not paying taxes on the gross that you're getting in. I mean, you're not getting tax, all of those are, your business expenses are coming off the top. So you're in usually a much better tax situation. You're not paying as much into it. So you'd be surprised at how different it is. So I think that is, let's see, I think I have just, yeah, some more info about the LAIC, and I think the schools will also be sending out info about it and some other, yeah, lawyers in the library, as Roberta mentioned. The LA Law Library has amazing resources also online, just some other little books and resources that, Solo by Choice, How to Start a Law Firm. Yeah, just some books that are fun, and I'll send all these slides to everyone. I think that's about it. And